Record. You got it. Okay, guys, welcome. Day 2 of, we call it the Crypto Revolution Summit. Yesterday was absolutely blazing, fire. I'm grateful that actually a good number of you have shown up in time. You know, I know others will join us along the way, but here we are. I'm so happy to have Stefen with us. Stefen, I don't know, in South Africa, we call it Stefen, I don't know. I don't know. Stefen with us, joining all the way from Bahamas, if I'm not wrong, somewhere in the Caribbean. We always dream about the Bahamas. Hopefully you'll give us some good tips of how we'll get there and how crypto can get us that side. But we're really excited, and thank you so much for the honor of, you know, being part of this, and our community is particularly honored that you take time to just share what you would have, and we really look forward to the session ahead. So, yeah, so I have a few slides to just kind of set the tone, and then, you know, we will transition over to Stefen. Yeah, so I think I'll just get on with it. So I just wanted to paint the picture. Today, we're going to look a little bit around the underlying technology that, you know, drives, or, you know, crypto. And blockchain is that technology. I just thought, you know, this was a cute one. It's a little bit more corporate-y, but please forgive me. I also have a corporate background. But I know Stefen also is very comfortable in this kind of space because it's something that he understands quite deeply. And I just thought to share this from Gartner. I mean, they tend to publish technology outlooks, and there's this famous hype cycle that technologies tend to go through as they mature. But at the moment, I mean, I'm not going to, you know, sound corporate, but the blockchain is in its own different flavors and iterations, has gone through this wave, you know, through the hype cycles, and, you know, and there are quite a number of things that are relevant that I think will probably feature in our conversation. Among them is what you'd call Web 3.0, and blockchain is a really key component in that, as well as other things which have been very topical. If you look at the top right there, you look at things like NFTs, which are at the top, at the peak of inflated expectations. There's a lot of hype around NFTs, for example. So the temperatures have cooled down on blockchain itself as a technology. Crypto is not even as hot, by the way. Crypto as we know it, and that's why we are giving a broader perspective on the subject matter, so that we don't just get stuck on coins. We actually look at the whole broader picture of what's happening, and that's why it's revolutionary. I think yesterday I spent time talking about why I feel Africa is ready. I gave the element around the youthfulness of the population and the desire within the dysfunction of our own economies. And I just said really, and I think that's, you know, from a point of view that we're actually ready for a revolution. And so this is just really, you know, a big picture kind of sense around what is happening. And as we look, where is blockchain having an impact today? There's been a lot of use cases that have developed. Not all of them have matured. The front runner remains crypto, because that's actually a front runner. You see that in this emergent asset class, that we've spent a lot of our time in our community trying to teach, trying to educate, trying to advocate. And it's really, we still are of the same mind that crypto is a good starting point. And then it's actually other emerging use cases like DeFi, which I think Stefen will touch on, decentralized finance, which is really democratizing finance as we know it, and making it accessible, leveraging, you know, what is available on the internet, which is now an internet of value. And also in agriculture, I know, you know, entities, whether it is in tobacco, coffee, you know, in agriculture broadly, where you can check from a source to market, you know, they call it from farm to fork. I don't know if that's fair. If you know, in terms of where the product would be sourced, where it's being farmed, what conditions, and things like that. So blockchain is playing a big role in terms of traceability in supply chains, and it's really having an impact. So again, as I said, you know, this might sound cooperative, but again, it's important for you to be educated around what's happening there. And then NFTs, which are at the moment touching arts and entertainment, but it's broader than that. There's a comment or a statement that you'll see at the end of my slides that talks about the use case of NFT or of this, you know, extending beyond art and entertainment. But then lastly, I mean, banks are also wanting in on the action. I'm not just saying banks, it's actually central banks, countries in this case, wanting in on the action. And they cannot ignore it anymore. That's why you have what you call central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, which is really essentially digital fiat. That's something that is developing, and there's a lot of debate around that. So again, in terms of the use cases, which are probably topical for us, and maybe will actually be, you know, a point of discussion that Stefen will probably speak to, is around decentralized finance, which I've mentioned is the application of blockchain and distributed ledger technologies that allows for inclusive access to financial services using internet infrastructure. That's a very simplistic definition. And then decentralized autonomous organizations, in very simple language, is actually organizations that are run by computer code, which are autonomous. They don't, you know, they're just really computer code that is executing. Think of an organization as you know it today, and code doing that for you. And then NFTs, non-fungible tokens. We've actually done one session on NFTs in the past, so we'll avail the recordings. But again, this is meant to just give you a big picture view. So yes, so I just put this so that we know that the coins we talk about, which are available on CoinMarketCap, are mostly probably what you call utility tokens, you know, and maybe payment tokens, so they just fulfill some kind of thing. I picked this from Deloitte, whatever. I mean, my previous people in consulting. But don't stress too much. And then there's, you know, what you call security tokens, which creates a lot of trouble and has a lot of regulation implication, because again, that's really aligned to almost traditional instruments that you'd know. I mean, XRP is a classical example that is facing some of these really rigorous regulations with the Securities Exchange Commission in the US. So again, there's a lot of debate in terms of the boundaries and what stops and so on, but that's a financial class debate. You know, we are not financial people here. And again, by the way, what we share in this forum is not financial advice. We are meant to inspire and educate and just really give you perspective so that you can be able to see how you can profit. So I think you've seen, some of you may have seen this quote somewhere, which I put together. It says, all crypto is not created equal. Some is more equal than the other. But the most important thing is do your own research. So we will, and the goal of today is not really, it's not our usual webinars where we teach concept by concept. It's actually to inspire and provoke. That's the mandate that Stefen has. He's going to really provoke us, challenge our thinking, you know, just, you know, pull us away from our comfort zone and make us aware of the broader picture that we should all appreciate. And I'm not going to labor on that. This is an interesting statement. Everything that can be tokenized will be tokenized. I've said it's started in the arts and entertainment space, sports, and those others in the elements, you know, real estate, and, you know, anything that can be tokenized essentially will be tokenized eventually. Of course, that's something that we'll observe as a trend going forward. And yeah, so guys, are you ready? I've been talking for the last 8 minutes. Are you ready? Are you ready? Stretch up, stretch out. Some of you have been sitting on a screen the whole day. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Let me see some reactions. Yes, yes. Let's see your thumbs up and whatever it is. Great. Okay, great. Now, this I will not read. It's a long spiel, essentially saying the future is tokenized. And I am not even going to bother with that. So I'm going to, without further ado, just want to introduce my brother, somebody we've connected online. And, you know, I'll just kind of, it's such a highlight, you know, it's such a blessing, you know, because our connection was seamless, you know, and I think, you know, I just have really, really loved the work that he does. I follow him on Twitter. He publishes some really thought-provoking ideas. He's somebody who I know is devoted to community. He's somebody who's passionate about this space. He knows quite a lot around NFTs, Web 3.0, DeFi, all those things that I've touched on. And, you know, the president himself is in the room. So I think I'm not going to really belabor this, other than to say it's such an honor, Stefen, to have you. And thank you so much that you have actually, you know, just made time to be with us today. So please take it away. I think allow take as much time as you need, probably the next 30, 40 minutes. We have until actually 7:30. So it's going to be interactive as well. So share as you see fit. The guys are not shy in the platform. They're going to chip in their last questions. So yeah, so I think over to you, sir.
Excellent. Let me turn my video on. Perfect.
Yeah, please.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
Yes.
Welcome, Stefen.
Hope everyone's doing well. This is obviously a good day to talk about crypto and blockchain. I would say so. And I'm glad to come in on the second day, not the first day. So everyone's already had, a little bit of a primer. So, and I definitely want this to be as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions, you have any comments, please don't hesitate. You can stop me mid-sentence if you want to. That's perfectly fine. Yeah, we're gonna mostly talk about Web3. And just a quick introduction. As you already saw, I'm the president of the Caribbean Blockchain Alliance. We've been around for a few years. We focus on mainly pushing adoption in the Caribbean region, which includes the main two mandates of education and public policy. So on the education side, we're focusing a lot on, right now we're focusing a lot on student communities, trying to get students into the space. Public policy is more of like, regulatory engagement, government engagement, et cetera. And yeah, the goal is really just to bring the entire Caribbean into Web3 at the end of the day, and to use blockchain in, all its different capacities, because it's like he said, it's so revolutionary. And there's so many applications and ways to use it in a way that can better everybody, in a way that everyone can really benefit from it at the end of the day, especially in countries like ours, where we've been, I don't know the right word to say, but we've been targeted and really underdeveloped for so long, intentionally. So using this technology is kind of a way to really empower ourselves, and use it in a way where we don't need, a lot of the dominant countries. We can, engage with each other, build with each other, learn from each other, and yeah, bring ourselves into the 22nd, 23rd century even at some point. So yeah. So I mean, so this topic is mainly Web3, and it's very interesting because, I'm sure all of you know about blockchain, all of you know about crypto, and, from Bitcoin was created, the focus has largely been around payments, transferring money, which is revolutionary in itself. And of course, there are other applications such as things like supply chain, where you're using more of a practical application, practical aspect of it. But there's a whole other basically rabbit hole called Web3, which is very different from everything that's come before. And keeping it simple, Web3 basically means, so, if you're on the internet, if you're using websites, 9 times out of 10, there's some kind of navigation, there's some kind of login, sign up, et cetera, where you put in your username, you put in your password, you put in your email, et cetera, et cetera. That's how 99% of the internet works. Anytime you sign into something, you're giving them these certain credentials, you're giving them a password. Passwords are pretty terrible, just because 1, they're easy to forget, 2, they get hacked all the time. So the question is, okay, how do we go beyond this? So now there's this thing called Web3 that's fully blockchain based. And really all it means is that you sign in via your wallet. So any website or application where you sign in directly through your wallet, that's Web3. So when people say Web3, that's really all it means, which sounds kind of small, but it's actually, again, revolutionary, because it allows you complete and total access to engage with your wallet. It gives you access to all kind of blockchain applications in a way that was not possible before, and in a way that's completely decentralized, which is the most important thing at the end of the day. So that kind of leads into this whole new world of, as you would have seen on the slides, DeFi, NFTs, and DAOs, and we'll shortly touch on all of them. But those three applications, those three things are the core of Web3. So whenever you look at one of those and whenever you engage with those, that's when you know you are officially in Web3. You're officially in this decentralized world, basically, that people sometimes call the metaverse. And I guess we can quickly go through all, but DeFi, for example, is this amazing kind of basically application of crypto that is essentially decentralized finance, meaning that, you know, you're engaging in finance, you're engaging in banking, you're engaging in lending, yield, etc. But you're not doing it through a specific bank. You're not doing it through a specific, you know, investing firm. You're doing it as yourself, just using code, just using protocols that nobody can take down. Nobody can stop you or say, for example, perfect. For example, you know, for countries like ours, it's like whether you're in the Bahamas, whether you're in Senegal, whether you're in South Africa, a lot of companies, a lot of websites, they'll say, oh, you're not in the right location, or you don't have the correct banking information, or you just don't have access to that. Now with DeFi, that doesn't exist anymore. That DeFi allows you, wherever you are, once you have connection to the internet, once you have a wallet, to say, okay, I can literally, whether I'm, you know, in Dubai, in South Africa, I can connect to this protocol, which runs entirely on the blockchain, and say, oh, I can, you know, transfer my Ethereum to USDC, for example, or vice versa. Or I can store my USDC in a lending protocol and receive benefits from it, whether it's revenue, whether it's more tokens, et cetera, et cetera. And there are, and if we talk about DeFi, it would take an hour, because there are so many different applications, so many different use cases for it. But basically anything you can think of in, you know, modern day finance is happening in DeFi. And it's happening in a way where no one person has control of it, over it. So no one person has control over it, and it's fully transparent at the end of the day. So issues like the financial crisis, where a lot of things were being hidden, a lot of things were being exploited, that can't happen in DeFi. It literally runs on blockchain code, which is fully transparent and which you can always look at. So, so essentially, if you, for example, for the developers in the room, if you can read code, you can look at any DeFi protocol, look at their code and see, okay, is this legitimate? Two, is this good code? Or even just, okay, what's happening here? You can literally look at every single aspect of it. And that gives you, of course, the accessibility, the confidence to say, okay, I feel comfortable using this. Let's do whatever we need to do with it. So there are, and just, I wish I had slides, but just to give a quick example, one of the biggest protocols in DeFi is called Uniswap. And that's where, again, anyone in the world, however you want to, can transfer, swap, transact with other people, or even just, again, transfer your tokens one to another. So again, like I have Ethereum. Nowhere around me can give me USDC, but I really want USDC. So what do? I go to Uniswap. I put in my Ethereum. I get an equal amount of USDC. There's no one person involved in this. It's just the protocol itself. You're interacting directly with the code, and you connect your wallet directly. So that kind of interacts and engages with everything. And again, that's what Web3 really means. It's this decentralized aspect of the internet that nobody can stop you from using. And we'll get back to DeFi in a bit, but just to run through everything. Now you have NFTs, which are some of my favorite things for sure. And what they really are is kind of and honestly, the slide does it really well. It's basically just tokenizing different. It's mostly for art. It doesn't even have to be art. It could be used for many different things, which are still being explored right now. But it's essentially taking any kind of asset and making sure that it's unique, not replaceable, and connected to the blockchain. So, for example, say you have an artist. I'm sure there's probably one artist in this room. You make digital art. You put it on Instagram, which is Web 2, and you don't get, you put it on Instagram and you don't get any benefit from it. You may get some followers, but outside of that, no one's paying you for it. You can hope that someone says, hey, I want to commission this work or commission another work, but you can't sustain yourself on that. With Web3, with NFTs, you can post your digital art on one of the NFT marketplaces or websites. Someone will look at it and say, oh, I want to own this. So they can actually buy it from you. So instead of just getting likes and follows, you can actually get paid for your work, which is, again, revolutionary for artists specifically, because artists have been, especially digital artists, because we live in this Web2 environment of everything's for free, and only, the Googles, the YouTubes, the Instagrams get the money from everything that you do. Now you can get the money. You can actually own and control your own artwork, your own collectibles, and which is why, as all of you have seen, I'm sure NFTs have been blowing up, because it really pushes the envelope of, hey, I can actually own this. There's no centralized marketplace or centralized website that is taking my returns. I own this. So the artist puts their NFT, their art piece, turns it into an NFT, which is a very easy process, puts it on this marketplace. Someone else from anywhere in the world comes and says, I really like this, I want this. So they buy it and you get paid directly from it. And you can do that with all of your art, which is, again, why it's been blowing up so much. And I will say, I've been collecting art for about a year now, actually, and strictly for, the idea of supporting artists, because I come from, and I don't specifically come from an art background, but much of my family are artists, and I've seen artists being devalued, people not being paid what they're worth. And with NFTs now, we're seeing that doesn't need to happen anymore. You can actually be valued properly for your amazing work. And especially for people who are in Africa, in the diaspora, where it's generally just harder for us to really be valued properly in the art world. That's changing very rapidly. So, and I'll touch on DAOs in a bit, but I'm a founding member of a DAO, which is basically just a decentralized collective called Her Story DAO, which is fully focused on collecting artwork, collecting NFTs from Black women. Because again, that Black women, as we all know, are the most devalued and undervalued. So making sure that we focus on Black women and their art to, again, one, support them, but also just to make sure that everyone sees the beautiful art that's being made. And again, I'll explain DAOs a bit. So DAOs stand for Decentralized Autonomous Organizations. What they are is, if you think of co-ops, they're essentially co-ops, just fully digital and fully scalable, because, whether someone's in America, whether someone's in the Bahamas, there are multiple avenues to join. And you can do it from anywhere in the world. You could be part of basically a co-op, a cooperative. You can be part of this collective of people who engage in governance. And this is actually the beautiful part of it, because the idea of decentralization means that you're not engaging with one particular company, you're not engaging with one particular government. You are essentially the government. All of you as a collective, through decentralization, can actually make decisions for yourselves. You don't have to wait for someone to make the decision for you. You don't have to look to anyone else. You can do it on your own, which I think the idea of these decentralized organizations is beautiful, because you can kind of self-direct yourself. You can empower yourself. You can do what you need to do. And these organizations are, they're being used in many different ways, and there are a lot of different things you can do with it. So for the example I just gave with Her Story DAO, that one is specifically to collect art, but it's also done in a decentralized way, meaning that you use specific tokens to make decisions. Everyone has an equal vote. And there are some DAOs where it's not an equal vote, it's more of a tiered vote, but you can basically make it how you want. You can make it so that everyone has an equal vote, which I think is pretty great, so that we all have a say, really. We all can put forward ideas, put forward proposals. And if the majority says yes, that's what we do. That's digital direct democracy, and that's how it works. And this is fairly new. We're starting to see a lot of collectives come up, all for different things. Like there's a new one that's focused fully on fighting climate change. And I mean, it's also the idea of coordination. So much of the world's problems have a coordination issue. There's, for example, there are so many empty homes, but there's a lot of homeless people, and and intentionally sometimes there's this kind of lack of engagement, lack of coordination between filling these gaps. Again, like there's more food created that can feed everyone in the world, but of course everyone in the world does not get fed. We have a huge food issue, hunger issue, and these can essentially be boiled down to coordination. So I definitely think that, and this will take a very long time, but with these kind of organizations that focus on decentralization, self-empowerment, self-direction, we can have these collectives that are fully focused on these coordination issues that, again, can help. They're better than charities. They're better than cooperatives, because everyone has control, but everyone also can engage in a digital way, in a decentralized way. I don't want to get too deep into it because it can get very abstract, but and to be honest, at this point, I'd love to get any questions, because I'm sure there's definitely better ways to explain it, but I want to do it in a way that's like understandable, but also not spending 100 hours on it.
So thanks, Stefen, for the outline. I'll actually fire it off, and then you guys in the community, you'll just get ready in terms of your questions. I'm sure there's quite a lot. Mine would be maybe just organize this for us in terms of what is the most mature today and ready to consume, including what are the risks and the benefits that are available for ordinary people. Because again, we are consumer. Our lens is more consumer. Blockchain is absolutely amazing, but most of the time it looks something very distant. But for us as ordinary everyday people, how can we benefit from it? So it could be from these ones that you kind of touched on, whether it's DeFi or NFTs. Sorry, just a minute. Sorry, I think I need to mute somebody here. Okay, so whether it's DeFi or NFTs, which ones are the ones that have matured and have are available and are accessible, in that order, from the least mature to the most mature, and how can people begin to benefit from it? I think that will be my opening question, and then you guys get ready to, share your questions thereafter. Go ahead.
Sure, I think that's a great question. It's a difficult one, because the three of them have definitely reached a certain level of maturity, but I can't say that they're particularly mature, because this is a space that changes every single day. It's honestly one of those where, if you're paying attention, or if you're not paying attention, you blink and you miss something new happening. So it's definitely not mature, but it's enough to properly use it and properly benefit from it. So NFTs, for example, that Actually, yeah. So NFTs have been around for a few years, but they have absolutely blown up this year specifically. There's a lot happening in 2021. And I would say, especially for artists, for example, that it's already there's still things to be developed. There's still things to be, touched on and fixed, but the opportunity is quite clearly there and ready and usable. So anyone can go on, for example, OpenSea or Rarible, put their art on, and then someone else can buy their art. Or you can go on as a collector and say, hey, this art is very good. I want to support it. I will buy it using my crypto. So again, it's also the idea, and many folks know this already. When you're using crypto, there's no one who can tell you, you can't use your money for this. No one can block you from transactions, for example. So you have an easy, again, decentralized way to interact with this art, interact with these collectibles, whatever it may be. So on the slide, you have Cryptokitties, which is not the first, not the first set of NFTs, but the first popular ones, I would say. And they created this huge idea around, okay, it's not art, but you have these.
It's a very funny thing. Digital cats. It's quite funny. You could almost say like frivolous, but it's a crazy amount of money. What drives that? I can't get it. Like many people are like, like this thing, literally. It's actually crashed the whole of the Ethereum network. And we've seen some of the paintings, not even painting, it's not even Mona Lisa style level, but it's like somebody, I don't know, what is it? Is it the hype that people are buying into, or what is it? Because I almost feel I can't understand it. Maybe help us. And also maybe in your curations, what are you looking for in terms of these arts and these NFTs and so on? I don't know.
So, it's there's definitely some hype around it, but it's mainly because with NFTs, this is really the first time that you can actually have proper ownership of something that's digital. So again, what Bitcoin did, for example, it took the idea of digital money, which was never able to be properly owned. So for example, if you have music or a song, you send it to somebody, they don't own it. You send them a copy, and you can send other people copies, which means that which is good for distribution, but it also means that no one person can own it. What Bitcoin did was made sure that, if you send money to anyone in the world, it's not a copy. Two, there's no there's no middleman in between. So it's literally just you sending it to the person without anything else. It's just the blockchain. So so what was happening here was basically the idea that you can do the same thing. You can have proper ownership of something that's not just money. It's actually a piece of art, a collectible. And people love collectibles. People collect like sports cards. There's like Tamagotchis and things like that. So this is really why there was so much hype. This is why everyone wanted something, because it was like, okay, I can have proper ownership of this. This is fully stored on the blockchain. And it can have specific traits that are randomized, which a lot of the current collectibles focus on. And you can also there's also the idea of being part of this community. If there are only 10,000, for example, of a specific collectible, and you have one, you notice that there are a decent amount of other people who have it, and you feel part of this community. So for example, what's happening now is a lot of people who are on Twitter, they'll buy a collectible and then put it as their profile picture to show that it's kind of a symbol to show that, okay, I bought this and I'm part of this community. And then when you see other people with a similar profile picture, like, hey, we're part of this grouping, we're part of this, this crew that really like this art or really like this collectible. So we have something in common. So it's kind of frivolous, but this is also why I love the idea of art and supporting artists, because that same idea of ownership Knowing that I can buy something from a great artist and, I can't hang it on my wall like physical, but digital art is very important. Digital art is great. And it means that I can display it, on my phone, on my computer. And let's be honest, we're on our phones and computers like at least 75 to 80% of the day. So why not have this art or have, these pieces on the platform that you're focused on for much of the day? And again, before we would look at art and pieces and whatnot on Instagram, but it's really a very surface level reaction or surface level interaction. And it's an interaction where Instagram wins at the end of the day. The artist doesn't win. You as the viewer doesn't win. Only Instagram wins. So if we bypass Instagram entirely or bypass YouTube entirely, where people don't get paid or people only get paid a small amount, you're empowering people directly. You're providing them with direct funds, direct revenue and benefits from their work, their hard work that they put into it. So, and that's kind of part of the hype too, just the rallying around this idea of, hey, we can take people's work and own it and benefit them through payments. So that's why it won't always be such hype, but it's really just people are seeing how revolutionary it is. People are seeing how much it can benefit people. And it's really pushing the envelope and empowering artists who really had not been properly valued before. So I think that's the biggest part of it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So I think I'm gonna thank you so much, Stefen, for that background, and you've touched all these different interesting things. I know for quite a number of us in the room, we might be maybe it's the first time. For some of you who are joining for the first time. Those of you who have been active in the community, definitely you've heard about DeFi, you've heard about NFTs, maybe not DAOs. We've never really covered DAOs, but I want to open up to the floor. Where is Tawanda today? I'm not seeing him in the list with this team of Arsenal. Maybe you might want to get an NFT of them, but they are losing. They're not doing very well. Anyway, let me open up to you guys. Anyone with questions? You can raise your hand or you can go ahead and just ask your questions. Please, over to you guys. Yes, Roderick, go for it.
Good day. Thank you for a very insightful talk. Does Web3 mean actually that the current infrastructure of Web2 going to be almost, I won't say obsolete, but ineffective?
That's a very good question. So it's a bit early to say, but I do personally feel yes. And it'll depend on, one of the biggest things that's being looked at right now is social media, because all social media is Web2 currently. There have been attempts at blockchain-based social media before, but they haven't gone well. So right now, the question is, can we do this in a way that makes sense, in a way that people can again benefit from it, rather than all your data being taken by Facebook, or all your potential benefits being taken by Instagram or YouTube. So the question of can it make Web2 obsolete? I think definitely yes, but it's very early. I think if we can see a proper proliferation of social media that is Web3, that will be the real focus. That'll be the real change. That will be when that, okay, we've moved fully into this world, because then anyone can basically do whatever, because much of our lives are dominated by social media. So that will be the shelling point. That will be the transition, really, because once anyone can, and I think the young people will be the first to really adopt this. If you can have, your 18-year-old literally using their wallet, they don't need a bank account for this. They can attach their wallet, jump onto social media, and maybe maybe they post something and then their friend sends, a token to them. That will be when we see proper adoption of Web3, because I mean, DeFi is huge, but not everyone wants to engage in finance. NFTs are huge, but not everyone wants to buy art or collectibles, as amazing as they may be. But the social media aspect is where we're going to see really the real explosion of people jumping into the ecosystem. Now, let me just type this here. There's a website that I think everyone should check out. It's called Rabbit Hole. And what it is, if you're very new to this ecosystem, it allows you to jump on, sign on, play around with DeFi, play around with whatever's happening in the space. They have a very good team. They're a very good resource, especially for people who are very new to this. It's a little bit of a hassle getting on, but I would say if you can check it out, definitely do, because it's the idea of you learn how to engage in Web3 and you can get rewards from it. Sometimes you get tokens, sometimes you get an NFT just for engaging with the ecosystem, just for testing out and trying out. So and I think that's a model that will be very powerful going forward. This idea of play to earn or learn to earn, which is actually really cool, because it's done in a way that's, again, decentralized, but also in a way that you couldn't really do it before. So I think a lot of people, again, between social media and play to earn or learn to earn, that will be what brings in a lot of people. So at that point, yeah, the Web2 will be obsolete after that.
Wow. Play to earn. We want that. Because honestly, I really like what you said around, social media and the clicks and the fact that you don't get anything from it. And now this will allow people to own. I don't know whether you guys really realize the impact of this. It may not be your usual coins, I'm getting a coin or anything, but it's actually really, really impactful in terms of overall value that it's being made available and your ability to participate. Go ahead, Tanguy.
Okay, thank you very much for the floor. Thank you very much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it, and I was wondering. So you were talking about the use of this technology for art, and the fact that we could protect basically artworks thanks to this technology, right? And I was wondering how does that work? How does that protection work? Is it some sort of code which is unique to the artwork? How can it not be stolen? That's my question.
Right, great question. So basically, let's give an example. You're a digital artist. You have an art piece that you want to put up, but you don't want, again, and I've seen this, so I engage with digital artists all the time. This year alone, I've probably spoken to hundreds of artists, and the benefit that they're seeing and that they're really enjoying is the fact that, again, given the Instagram example, if you put your piece on Instagram, it's there. It's not owned by anyone except Instagram. And what happens a lot is someone else sees it and says, oh, I just want to copy and save this picture. I can go around, put it on my own Instagram and say it's mine, which happens all the time in digital art. So with NFTs, and basically to explain how that works is that blockchains, for whatever use case, they work through cryptography. They use hashes, which are essentially digital fingerprints, meaning that in the same way that your fingerprint is unique, these digital fingerprints are unique. So anything that's connected to the blockchain has a specific hash, meaning that whether it's a token, whether it's a piece of work, that can't be changed. no one can go in and edit it. And if someone tries to tamper with it, it changes the fingerprint, meaning that you can tell that it's been tampered with, or someone tried to tamper with it, etc. So basically, what you do is you take your digital art piece, you assign it a hash, you attach it to the blockchain through this cryptographic hash, through this digital fingerprint. So now it has this, it's basically a string of code connected to it at all times forever. Meaning that no matter what happens, it will always have that code on it. So you can literally go in and look for the code. You'll see that the code is there. It has not been tampered with. So you know that that is yours. And if you send it to someone, if you sell it to someone, it becomes theirs because they now own that hash. Sorry. So basically, I'm trying to figure out a way to dive deeper without diving too deep. But yeah, essentially the cryptography that's essential to blockchain, it's essential to crypto. It's how the entire thing is kept secure and safe at the end of the day. Also now transfers into this art piece. So now the art piece has the same security as these blockchains do. Because now they're and I assume maybe you covered how blockchains work yesterday, but basically now the hashes of these tokens, the hashes of these art pieces are in these blocks now, which is in obviously blocks make up the chain, which is why it's called blockchain. So now the art piece or the digital signature attached to the art piece is part of this chain that cannot be broken. So that's how the security works. That's how the ownership works, because you can't change it. No one can go in and steal it. So the ownership is tied directly to the blockchain, just how, the ownership of your Bitcoin, of your Ethereum is tied to the blockchain. So it's all part of the same ecosystem.
Thank you. Thank you
so much.
Yeah. Thank you. And any other questions, guys? This is a big topic. That's why we talk about it as a revolution, and we are at the beginning of it. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Steven, for the information that you've already shared with us. And I am very keen to know any practical cases and applications that you have encountered or that you have been part of or exposed to in your area of responsibility in the Caribbean in terms of the use cases of decentralized finance. You gave the background, which is very similar to Africa in terms of we are lagging behind and we need to leapfrog in order to really empower ourselves, right? And I've heard of some use cases of some of these smart applications, for instance, in the education sector in some countries in Africa with this, the Cardano Foundation, for instance. But I just wanted to find out, practically speaking, for a typical Caribbean or African who really wants to benefit and take advantage of this technology, this blockchain, if there is any practical cases that you can share with us just to bring us a bit closer to earth, as it were, because we hear all these concepts and sometimes they are in the air and we want to connect them to the practical realities. And I thank you so much for sharing on the NFT side of things, for especially artworks and so forth, and that is really needed. And I think for Africa, many of the artists, if they could at least link up and connect to such technology, I mean, they would really have good rewards for their work. But I'm just interested more on the DeFi side, just to see practically how it's manifesting, and also what are the challenges or what are people fearing? Because I heard you say that you are really championing the adoption of such technology. Thank you.
Sure. And before I forget, you just reminded me, there was actually maybe a week or two ago, an NFT exhibition curated by a friend of mine who's from Senegal, focused fully on African artists. It was called Cyberbot. And that was an incredible. I'll try to find a link so I can, like, it was excellent, but definitely more on the DeFi side, which is, again, as you said, pretty abstract at this point. Again, because it's evolving. I would say, so for example, in the Caribbean, in the Bahamas, we have a CBDC, which is a central bank digital currency. We also have one in the Eastern Caribbean Union. And I think that's an idea that will be largely adopted going forward. And actually, Nigeria just signed with a Caribbean country to start their own central bank digital currency. So I think something that will be interesting is the idea of, if all of our countries have central bank digital currencies, then through DeFi, through these kind of automated decentralized market makers, automated exchanges, decentralized exchanges, we can much easier engage in trade through our different countries. Say, I want to use my Bahamian dollar and buy something in Nigeria. We can basically swap tokens that fully represent our dollars. And then, and that enables trade to a mass degree, because all of the initial difficulties with international trade, interregional trade, especially as, underdeveloped / overexploited countries, it just makes all of that easier. But even if you go outside of the central bank aspect or the government aspect, again, the idea of trade through, if I want to send Ethereum or if I want to send Bitcoin, I can do that much easier. I can send my money much easier. And there are actually a lot of different things that can be done, which also expands into not just buying or selling things, also the idea of decentralized lending, peer-to-peer lending, crowdfunding, all these different things that can happen through DeFi without a central authority or without a company in the middle that's really taking some of the revenue, taking some of the profits. That can be a one-to-one transaction with anyone in our countries. And I think it definitely has the potential to better connect our regions and to engage with trade. I want to give another example. I believe this is the right website. I can double check. Actually, a friend of mine who lives in.
Feel free to share. If you want to share your screen, feel free. I mean, you can just easily do, because it's actually, you have that capability. You can, if you want to share anything. Yeah.
Perfect. Let me pull it up. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's a very interesting website, .io.egg or whatever it is. I mean, that's what I'm saying, guys. It's really, it might sound theoretical. That's why I was very clear yesterday to say we're not going to talk about which is the coin that is going to trend next week, which one will you jump in and make money quickly. But this is actually bigger. This is big money. We're not talking about the little coins that we buy and we keep and stack and swap and all those sorts of things. Yes, that is part of the conversation. We're talking about industries. Banking, as we know it, is being disrupted. Supply chain networks, as we know it, is being disrupted. Agriculture, as we know it, is being disrupted. So this is something that I think beyond coins, we need to think, which are those entities that are emerging? Where can we, for example, your culture. I'm thinking of my Namibians in the room. Have you thought about putting that on blockchain? I saw some guys in Ethiopia doing that. You can actually position it and say how what's the people in Julia, your people, from in the north. You can curate your culture and put it on the blockchain, and you'll be the owner of that, or whatever. I don't know.
And the idea of putting your culture for all to see, because African culture, Caribbean culture, Black culture globally has been exploited, has been taken in ways that we have not benefited from it. So the idea of using this technology to properly benefit from our culture and to actually own it in a way that nobody can really take from us, or at least can't take it without having to pay for it. That's powerful in itself. And this to give an example, this is related to DeFi, but this is a company that's used for African startups for equity. And this is being built by a team in Kenya, actually, a team in Nairobi. But this is fully blockchain based. This is basically a good intro into DeFi that's adding some other concepts and contexts, such as, you know, raising money for your startup, but also managing investor cap tables and whatnot. So I mean, this is, and that there's
is it the one that you typed in right now? Getraise.io, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you see the screen?
Yeah, you can. I mean,
Okay,
if you want, yeah, you can go for it.
So this is an app that a lot of people are, especially a lot of founders, have started using because it gives you an easy connection. And this is, so I'm trying to find where, let's see. So this is, so as you can see, it has a username and password, but they're transitioning into, I mean, they're going to keep this just to make it easier, but they're also going to add in the Web3 aspect where you just connect through your wallet. And again, that makes it, you know, fully decentralized. It gives you full interaction with it. And now you can see, you know, these different founders, these different startups that are interacting and already using this. And this is where, you know, it uses the security of blockchain, which automatically makes things better in terms of safety. And as you can see, so I'm giving this example because I really like this company. Marvin Colby is actually the founder, and I think it's really going to revolutionize how startups are being made, and kind of connect startups that may not have necessarily thought of blockchain before. Now it's bringing a lot of people into blockchain.
Wow.
Thank you, Steven.
Eye-opening. Wow. Thank you, Jeremy. That's a great question as well. Yeah. Any other questions, guys?
Just to add to that, actually, so very quickly. So, and this is really where DeFi shines. Just even if you're not going to be incredibly deep into it, just the idea of, so, you know, you put your money in a bank, it gets, you know, 0.01 interest, because that's the world we live in now. With DeFi, you can do that without having to access a bank. You can get returns on your, you know, you can stake it, you can lend your money with it in a fully decentralized way. There's not really a company. So there are companies you engage with, but they're not in the middle in the same way. So it's still a direct interaction at the end of the day. And and people are getting, you know, it could be 4%, sometimes it could even be 10%. There's just because there's no bank in the middle, there's greater opportunities for benefits. And I know the question was on risks and challenges. One of the risks for sure is that it's all based on code, meaning that anyone can build their own DeFi protocol and launch it. Now, there are some that are trusted because, you know, people have reviewed code, it's been audited, anyone can look in and see it. Sometimes there are new ones that pop up and they're not audited, no one's reviewed the code, and it turns out to be something's wrong with it. So there is code risk just because there may be a bug, there may be an exploit, something like that. So there's definitely, sometimes it takes a bit of research. I think and that's the biggest risk. I think the best thing is to interact with do pretty much once you do some research, it solves the problem, or engaging with the ones that have already been around for a long time, like Uniswap, for example, or Aave, for example, have proven to be robust. Where the biggest thing to look at is whether or not the code has been audited, whether or not the code has been, it's essentially a peer review. So at the end of the day, you're engaging with code that's been around for a while, or has already been tested and proven to be secure.
Yeah. So I have a number of questions on the floor, so allow me. Guys, keep your questions short because we have like 30 minutes to go, probably let's say 25. So let's keep it short, you know, short and sweet. So Purity, Tangi, Raphael, in that order, and then we'll take the next batch after. So Purity, go for it.
Thank you. My question was around something you touched on, and I mean something we're very keen on here. It's the unlocking of trade, you know, between, let's say, Ethiopia with its deal and the Kenya shillings, and really not having to go through the currencies that are already established, like the USD, to trade. And just maybe if you can give us a live example of someone who's doing this around the world, would appreciate. Thank you.
Cool. Just I think let's batch it if we can take 2 or 3, and then you can answer them in one shot. And then Tangi, I know you need to go. Maybe you'll be the last one, and then the next the other guys can wait for this after that. Yeah, Tangi.
Yeah, my question would be, in your opinion, what does it take for the blockchain technology to be widely used? In your opinion, what does it take from here, do you think?
Okay, I think over to you, Stefen.
I get the third question too.
Okay, I think the third one, Immaculate, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah, mine is really a rhetorical question, and it's based on, I understand that the guy who started the Bitcoin, people don't even know where he is. And I'm just wondering, like, what gives Bitcoin such high value that right now it's costing 50,000, and yet people don't even know the guy who started it? And what would you advise, like when one is looking for, you know, to trade, like what exactly adds value to an asset? I know it sounds rhetorical, but it's just something that I've been wondering. Like, I can't understand, you don't even know who started it, but it keeps on going up and up and up. And we have other assets that have potential, but they're not picking up. I don't know. I know what, I believe you understand what I'm asking.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So the beauty of blockchain is that the fact that we don't know who started it doesn't mean anything. Because, and that's the beauty of decentralization, means that even if that person were to come back and make themselves known, it wouldn't really mean anything, because they can't go in and change the system. No one can go in and change the system, which is just one of the reasons why it's so valuable. Just the idea of a global type of money, a global asset that no bank has control over, no central bank has control over, no government has control over, no company or corporation or billionaire has control over. It's literally money that anyone essentially can access and can have their own of. So that's really why it's so valuable, because it kind of revolutionized the idea of what money is. The fact that we're in this digital world now, but we still have fully physical money, or we have digital money, but it's, given to us by a bank or given to us by a company. This is the first type of digital money that doesn't have any of that. It's literally just code. It's just code that anyone can look into and see, okay, this is robust, this is secure, I feel safe using this. And that's why it's it's growing so much in usage. People who are, there's actually a great example of young girls in Afghanistan where, because of their age and because of the fact that they're girls, sometimes the older men in the community, if the girls are, if they have jobs or providing for their families, even at a young age, the older men will steal their money because they're not supposed to have money in their particular community. But with Bitcoin, if they now can own, if they can have jobs and earn Bitcoin through them, which was a program that existed actually until very recently, they don't have that problem anymore, because now they have full digital ownership in a way that nobody can tamper with, nobody can take away. So just that idea. And again, I think it's really the global aspect. Because, if you wanted to get US dollars, for example, that's a whole process that you have to go through. And sometimes, whether it's, some kind of government agency or whatnot, they can stop you from either accepting dollars or using dollars in the way that you want to. So just the idea of this new kind of money that's fully digital, fully scalable, you can take it anywhere in the world, and nobody can block it. Nobody can hamper it. No one can stop you from engaging with it. That is really why it's so powerful. And just that alone is why the price has gone up quite a bit, because it's so valuable. I would say, and not only just that, it's also the security. The security of blockchains is already massive. And the Bitcoin blockchain in particular is basically unbeatable in terms of because of how it's structured, because of how it's built. It is the most, there's probably about $1 trillion worth of value in the Bitcoin blockchain right now, which should be as something that's literally just code. Every hacker in the world would be trying to, and they are trying to get into it, and it has not been hacked. So just the idea of this immense security is unbeatable. So there are multiple different reasons why it's so highly valued, but those are just, two of the strongest ones. Let's go back to the other, sure. Let's go back to the other questions. I'm trying to think of specific things being used for trade. The Cardano Foundation example is a good one. I haven't followed that one super closely, so I'm not sure where that is right now. But I mean, even the example I gave with Raise, it's based around startups and people building companies, which will provide everyday people who didn't have access to maybe investing in companies before, to, in a very decentralized way, invest in companies with the money that they have. They don't need to have, this kind of accreditation. They can just, as a regular person, put some money in this company and get shares from it. I know there's a company called Emerge as well. That's I believe, I don't remember exactly where, I believe it's Ethiopia, that's doing some things around trade and supply chain, but I don't know, I don't remember exactly what phase of that project is in. So I can't give a great example at the time, but I know these things are being worked on and being built in terms of trade. There's also things like obviously supply chain, but also renewable energy. There are like, so for those who are familiar with microgrids, the idea that you can get your energy from a non-centralized source and non-centralized company, you can actually, if someone in your neighborhood has solar panels, but they have, let's say, you're in a neighborhood of 5 people, 2 of your neighbors have solar panels. If they have enough to create more energy than they need, they can actually, with these microgrids, they can actually share that, share some of that energy with you or with the other people in the neighborhood. And what blockchain does, it basically, it adds a layer on top of that so that you can just much more easily coordinate much more easily basically give value to that and have payments with that. I don't remember what the other question was. I apologize.
So I think Purity's question was around use case on whether it's e-Naira or shilling or whatever. My sense is that we are not yet there yet from a central bank perspective, digital
Right.
currency perspective. I don't think we are there yet, even the European Union, and because again, there's a lot of bureaucracy. Remember, this is old models trying to apply themselves to the new world, and that requires a lot of legwork. It has to require
Yes.
legislation and all of that. So the best case we have today is actually using Bitcoin and probably using stable coins in between to interface, and of course, which eventually somehow will touch the traditional system. But I don't think we have yet a CBDC that is out there, that is ready, that is available, that is consumable. I could be wrong. Maybe just Stefen, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Not Chad. I know the first one is Nigeria, but that's just started. So it'll take
yes,
a while.
yes, it's just started. Yes,
But in the meantime, I mean, just the idea, because I know, especially in Nigeria, especially in Kenya and Ethiopia, there are a lot those for sure. I know there are a lot of people who interact with tokens, interact with, say, for example, USDC. I know there are people who only get paid in USDC and only transact in USDC. So that's just one example of how things have already gone fully into the deep end of Web3. And then the beautiful thing is that they can now use these crypto tokens to engage again with DeFi, or they can buy NFTs. They can take the money that they've earned, put it into this protocol called Aave, and have it be lent and borrowed and get returns from that. Just you're essentially your own bank at that point, which is a massively powerful thing.
Yeah. So maybe let's take the next round. I think Purity, are you happy? Do you want to ask a follow-up question? If you want to.
Did I just want to make sure I didn't miss any questions.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much.
Okay, excellent. I think Tangi also. I mean, probably that has been touched. If you feel you still want to add anything, feel free. I think I want to give the next leg to Julia. She's been burning, as well as I know, Raphael, you had lifted your hand. And anybody else, if you really want to ask, please raise your hand, because we just have less than 15 minutes to go. And yeah, please. And then I think there was a very important question from Roderick on the impact on economic principle of supply and demand in Web 3.0. I think, Roderick, I would want you to voice that question. I will read the one from Bianca, which is around, okay, she's interested in hearing more about DAOs. If you could give a practical use example related to something, social organization. I mean, she's a social entrepreneur herself. Similar to me, I'm very passionate about the whole empowerment and distributed organization. If you think of a cooperative or a, what do you call this? What do we call it in South Africa here? The savings, the SACCO. There's a name for it, you know, where we're saving money. You know, women normally come together, they put their money together, whatever it is. So maybe something like merry-go-round. What's the Afrikaans word?
Suso?
No, Stokvel.
Stokvel, yes. Roderick, I want to give you you voice your question, and then Julia, and then who else? Dennis, did you want to ask something? Yeah. Roderick?
So yes, I would like to know, we noted that with the economic principle of supply and demand, specifically in the agriculture or any other environmental things, you normally have actually what we call aggregators, people and things that buy on large scale, and then they will sell to to some buyers. So now in Web3, with the middlemen, that is going to disappear. How is a farmer going to participate in a very big market?
That's a great question.
Yeah, maybe just take Julia's one and then you'll answer that in one batch. Sure. Julia, please, you have been burning. Julia?
Oh, is it my turn? Thank you, team.
Yes, yes.
Hi, Steven. Wow, this has been the most technical session we ever had this far. And I really just want to put myself in the shoe of a normal user, and really just understand, the whole blockchain story from a user perspective. So mine is more of a validation than a question, and really how I understand it. So for me, blockchain, really the network works exactly like the internet. And no one owns the internet, everyone uses it, and there's no central control per se around the internet. So the only way you can really validate an internet user is really if you're validating a user through an IP address and a device address or some other form of validation. So I feel like the same applies to blockchains. So a blockchain user or blockchain network for me uses the same philosophy. And the only way you can really validate a transaction in the blockchain network is, if you want to validate if it's a legitimate address or a wallet. Otherwise, my worry really is just around your regulations. How do you protect a normal user? And second, maybe just to learn about the infrastructure and how we can, use coding to plug into the network. From a technology perspective, I just want to understand where exactly do I start? And I mean from your coding perspective and a person that really understands coding and IT in general. So for me, it's really a comment around how to protect the normal user and a comment around how do I plug into the network from a coding perspective.
The geeks are awake. Steven, over to you.
Okay, that's a lot. I may ask you to repeat parts of that in a second, but let me share my screen just to access the question about farmers, which is a great question. Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is a website called, there's a company called Farm Credibly, and they're not using Web3 in particular, but they're using blockchain. So essentially it definitely still counts. But the idea of this is around engaging with farmers and connecting them to the blockchain so that, again, they can trade with anyone in the world. And they could also get things like credit scores. Their payments will be blockchain backed. Obviously, it adds the security of it, and there's the obvious supply chain aspect, meaning that their produce or their food is attached through the same digital signatures that I mentioned before, so that anyone can see that it came from this specific farmer, it came from this specific field or a specific country, for example, so this is based in Jamaica. And that gives the authentication, that gives the trust to say, okay, no one's tampered with this. No one's messed with this. This came from this particular place. I can't be fooled into thinking that it came from somewhere else or it used a different kind of produce, for example, because it's all attached to the blockchain. So this uses a number of different use cases. Again, there's the supply chain aspect, there's the payments aspect, there's even the credit scoring aspect, which you can get. You can basically interact with the blockchain and kind of derive a credit scoring system through that, and it's in a way that's very easy to use. There's just an app. It's obviously like, I don't know if you can see this, but it's every payment, every sale, every transfer is easily recognizable, easily authenticated. So that's one way in which farmers are engaging with this system already. And it's a great question, the idea of, if you don't have these large aggregators, how do farmers get money? Well, and frankly, I think you can still have aggregators at the end of the day. It's just that they may not necessarily, it'll just be done in a more decentralized way. You can have similar interactions, or you can just do it in a way where the farmers are, and I think this kind of opens up that trade aspect, actually. you can buy from farmers directly. You don't need a central aggregator. Anyone in the world can literally engage. And that kind of opens up this idea of global trade, this idea of having more control over where you get your food from. And for the farmers, they don't have to wait for these particular middlemen. They don't have to engage with them or give them a share of their profits if they don't want to. They can sell their food, they can sell their produce directly to people, directly to communities, directly to other companies, what have you. So I think it's definitely a shift, and one that may be a bit difficult to begin with, but at the end of the day, being able to have more control over, you know, what you do with your own goods, I think is pretty powerful, and it definitely opens up this idea of global trade, where you can send it to anyone. So the aggregators may push it toward a certain country, but you now can push it anywhere you want. So there's definitely, and this is one of the challenges too, there's definitely this idea of, again, being your own bank or having more ownership, this decentralized control, which is harder at the very beginning, because it's just a shift. We're used to companies managing our goods. We're used to banks managing our payments. So now it's basically on us, but it also gives this empowerment to have more control over our own lives. We don't need to have these large corporations, large banks doing everything for us. And just, sorry, one second. And this is just one idea of a DAO. So Gitcoin is a DAO that basically allows you to, it's the idea of public goods, which is obviously an economic concept, but it hasn't really been tapped into properly in the internet. So, you know, when the World Wide Web was created, when the internet was created, it was obviously, as you said, something that was built for pretty much anyone to use, to be able to use. But of course, those people who built it didn't really get the benefit from it in terms of being paid or having not really having ownership, but just having some monetary benefit for building these massively important systems. Now, the companies that were built on top of it, say your Facebook, say your Googles, they got all the money, but the actual base layer, the infrastructure itself, those people who built it did not really get the money for that. So the idea of having a DAO that's focused on basically funding these open source projects, the ones that are, as they call it, public goods or digital public goods, that these things that are built essentially for free, but they affect everybody and they're used by everybody. So the idea of having a decentralized organization focused on, you know, people funding these projects, whether before they're created or even after they're created, but just the idea of these builders actually, it's kind of like the artists. The artists make work, but they're undervalued for it. So in the same way, these builders are undervalued for, you know, the amazing things they've come up with. Now you see, you know, through these decentralized communities, there's been $33 million funded for projects. And as you can see, it's, I don't know if you can read this, but what these DAOs really allow for is collaboration. And interestingly enough, DAOs can be anything from just small social groups to large decentralized companies, not traditional companies. But what they allow is that, you know, any of these DAOs can interact with each other, collaborate with each other. If they're doing the same thing, they're more incentivized to collaborate than to compete, which is pretty great in my opinion. So now we have basically more incentive, more coordination that allows for things to be built bigger and faster in a way where it's not, you know, one company that's controlling all the profits and owning everything. It's more of everyone has part of it, everyone has ownership of it. And even just coming from the idea of co-ops, what these DAOs allow is to, if you look at traditional companies, if you look at traditional labor markets, in any company, for the most part, the money goes to the top. The workers get paid, but they're not allowed any of the upside, any of the, you know, increase in profits or increase in shares, all that stuff. So what DAOs do is it completely breaks that down, meaning that, you know, if your DAO has a token and that token rises in price, all of the members of the DAO or all of the contributors to the DAO or participants in the DAO are able to be part of that upside because their tokens that they're holding increase in price as well. So they're essentially shares at this point, which they don't necessarily have to be, but most of them are doing it in that kind of way, so that you as a regular person who's part of it, you have a stake really in your DAO doing well, and when it does do well, you get the benefit of it. So this idea of these DAOs I mean, even just in terms of, you know, if your company or if your co-op becomes a DAO, everyone automatically who's part of it is able to gain from it. I want to give it another example. I won't be able to do it. Yeah, I hope that answered. This is just one example. There are many, but this is just like, you know, people coming together to make sure open source projects are funded at the end of the day, which is going to be massively beneficial for everyone that's engaging in this digital technology and in the internet in general.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Tim?
Hi, Tim, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
We can hear you now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry, because I think I just switched my connection. I'm just saying I'll take a last round. We literally have like 3 minutes. If somebody's burning and they must ask the question, please go for it. I'll only allow 2 people, and then I think Stefen will just give a brief answer, and then we'll just close. Wow. Julia, is it?
Yeah, no, for me, it's more, I just want to understand the back end. The front end makes a lot of sense for me, but the back end, there's a lot of technicalities that comes with it. And I just want to understand it. And I just want Stefen to just list 3 things or 3 main you know, points where I can go to and then just say, this is my starting point.
Is that for DAOs or is that for which aspect?
So if I have a website and I just want to plug it on to the blockchain network.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me give an example. Oh, before I forget, let me just type this in. This is an actually amazing article about DAOs and where where the idea comes from. What's the potential future of them, how people are using them. So definitely check out that article. I think it's incredible.
Yeah. So maybe Stefen, just because I'm afraid of time, if there's any guidelines or resources or things, that might be probably a useful approach, because I'm just afraid that that's a big question and it's not necessarily something that can be in detail answered in 2 minutes. Is there anybody else? Yeah.
So just very quickly, just to make sure I answer the question, I'm putting in another website. So Wallet Connect is largely, and it won't fully answer the question, but it's largely how a lot of companies, websites, et cetera, are using Web3 to make sure that people can access it through their wallets, for example. So definitely check that one out.
Thanks, Stefen.
Okay. Yeah. Oof. Any person who wants to ask something before we close the session? Bianca, I think everybody's comfortable. It looks like, I think a lot of the people are saying, yep, there's a lot of learning. There's a lot of things that they've picked up today. For the sake of those of you who have joined us for the first time, I've just pasted the link to our Telegram group, because that's really where we're going to do the follow-ups. That's where we're going to share the recording from this session. I just want to hear, guys, how have you found the session? I just want to know, how have you found the session? Some of you can type. I think I want somebody to unmute, one or two people to unmute and just really give feedback to Stefen. I think he's done an amazing job. How have you guys found the session? Somebody can unmute, please. I think we need to hear your voices. Okay, I see a bunch of claps. Who wants to speak on behalf of the community? Bianca, do you want to say something? I want somebody to speak. You know how we do.
Very, very insightful, Stefen. I think one of the things that I can say is that there were a few things that just went over my head, but I know that is actually when you are being exposed to new concepts and new ideas. So we will definitely have access to the video. We can go and watch it again. I am so in awe. My mouth is just open, Thank you so much for that information.
Thank you. I want one more voice, please, because again, the whole idea of the summit is not comfort, it's stretch. We were not inviting you here to come and be told the same things that you know and which coin to go and buy. No, it was to challenge your mind. Please, Roderick, go for it. You've been the one asking the most questions. It's only fair.
Yes, actually, I've witnessed Web 1 and I've been very engaged in Web 2. And I'm quite intrigued by Web 3 because I'm an educator as well, and this time I'm not going to sit on the fence.
Hallelujah. I think you've achieved the mission, Stefen. I mean, this is actually what we wanted, to really provoke, to challenge, to inspire, to open our minds just beyond, because again, the danger is, and I see John Paul from Uganda. I'm new to blockchain, crypto, and all this has been very enlightening and informative. My brother, go spread the message. Don't keep quiet. Be that person who goes and tells everyone that you've had amazing things, because most of the world is oblivious. We think Web 3.0 is the next thing. It's just another evolution. It's another social media, that we're going to have or something like that. It's not linear. It's not linear. It's not linear. It's absolutely revolutionary. That's why we're using a provocative title. It's a revolution. So guys, I'm not even going to bother and share my slides and tell you more about the community. I just hope that you have been provoked, you've been challenged, you've been pushed, you've had too much, your head is about to explode, and actually you'll want to learn more. And I've shared with you the best thing you can do right now is actually just click on the link for our Telegram channel. I'm going to share the recording tonight. So if you're I'm not going to send emails to people. I'm going to just share that only exclusively on the Telegram channel. I want on behalf of the community to really say a big, heartful thank you to Stefen. Thank you so much, Stefen. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Steven.
Yeah, so I hope we'll get to visit Carribean and meet up and drink some nice things there.
Definitely.
Yeah, and also your knowledge on Africa, quite a lot, and quite a canvas of knowledge across different fields. Yes, very informative, lots to chew on, but maybe it would have been longer. Yes, that's why it's a summit. So I think on behalf of everybody here, I see there's a lot of positive comments. Please don't filter that, type it away, share your appreciation. I just want to really thank everybody and for making time tonight, and thank you so much. So tomorrow we do the final closeout with Erican in the room, and Stefen is part of that bigger network that is really doing amazing things globally. I mean, he's connected to Erican's initiative and effort, and we're part of these leading lights around the world that are trying to make an impact in this time. So we'll see you tomorrow. Be on time. Thank you for coming, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Steven. Thank them
Thank you
for
so
everything.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.